Welcome back to Master Your Glass with me, Livio Lauro. Today we are going to explore the very exciting world of vermouth, specifically the sweet style, also known as Rosso or Rojo or Rouge. Let's get into it, shall we? Now, before I get too far, we should probably discuss what exactly is vermouth. Vermouth is a wine that has been sweetened with sugar or caramel. After that, it has been fortified with some type of a grape-based alcohol, most of the times a brandy-like type. And last but not least, it has been aromatized, or let's just call it flavored to be more practical, with herbs, spices, and barks. Now, a producer of vermouth, just like one of these, will go through a great deal of work just to try to properly balance the acid that is in the wine, the sweetness that comes out of the sugar, and of course all the flavors that are coming from those botanicals, which of course can vary from brand to brand and from recipe to recipe. When they've reached what they prefer is their preferred style, they have what is their perfect flavor. Now, their perfect flavor might not always be our perfect flavor. So today we're gonna learn a little bit about the different styles, and so you get to learn which one you like best and which one you pick for your cocktail or for your next vermouth on the rocks. Now, I wouldn't really give vermouth its true justice if I didn't at least give an honorable mention to Hippocrates. Hippocrates was a doctor who in the 5th century created his own flavored wine, aromatized wines, and with those herbs, he would of course help his patients feel better and cure all sorts of diseases, especially of the stomach. Now, his wine was called Vino Ippocraticum, and as I mentioned, this started in the 5th century. Now, the Romans, of course, picked up that technique and started really creating a lot of wines with all sorts of herbs and roots and spices and flavors in them, predominantly rosemary, which of course were also used as some sort of a medicine. However, in 1786, the most popular Vino Ippocraticum was invented, and that of course was vermouth. This happened in Torino, and of course it was 1786. Torino is in the Piedmont region of Italy, where Antonio Benedetto Carpano created his version of this wine. And the ability of this wine to gather people who would come at the same time of the day to drink it in order to prepare themselves for a meal created the art of the aperitivo, which then in turn really surged what vermouth means to us today. So this of course made Torino the birthplace of vermouth. Now, let's talk about 3 styles really quickly. And of course, there's not a whole lot of regulation other than the AOCs of specific brands. So you'll see that vermouths can be quote unquote categorized in different ways by different people. Predominantly, I like to call them 3 styles: dry, sweet, and flavored. Now, those 3 styles have subcategories of their own. Today, we are tasting all sweets and 1 flavored. So how did dry vermouths come into play? Well, about 2 decades after sweet vermouth was invented in France, Joseph Noilly created a category called dry vermouth. Now, every producer pretty much makes a sweet style and a dry style, but back in the day, dry meant French, sweet meant Italian. But before I get into too many tangents, I think it's fair that we start tasting some of these. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna show you the 3 different styles within a vermouth and why it's important to know them, because some vermouths will be highly herbal or herbaceous or barky or woody or bitter, and some of them will be a little bit more fruity and playful and have berry and cherry notes, and then some of them in the middle will kind of capture both. Now, chances are you might have had the wrong style that you like and now you don't like vermouth at all, or chances are you might have had old vermouth. Now remember, this is wine, and if it's not properly stored, then it doesn't taste amazing, and you might have had a great vermouth that wasn't at its best, and you might have dismissed vermouth in the first place. I remember when I first moved here in the US, a lot of bottles of vermouth weren't only on the bar, which is not where you're supposed to put them. They were literally on top of the refrigerator, right next to the engine spinning, blowing warm air on them. There's no vermouth that's ever gonna taste good that way. today, most bars have learned that these go in the fridge. So if you go to a bar that has a really cool vermouth program and they're keeping it in a fridge, do yourself a favor and start ordering. Let's go ahead and start with Martini and Rossi. This is a sweet vermouth. This company's been doing vermouth since 1863, which means they have a few years of experience in it. This is basically the benchmark or the standard for the style of vermouth that is very easy drinking, going to not really try to butt too much into your cocktail, but actually just kind of sit there and play well with all the other ingredients. Okay. Yeah, as I explained it, this category, just very bright, dark cherries, very little leather or tobacco, but very, very little. Predominantly just a really nice cherry with a hint of bitter flavors to it. Easy going. Let's move on to the next one. And this one here is going to be Cinzano, also one of the most famous brands in the world, not just of vermouth, but of alcohol in general. And I think that goes there. And this one's a little darker in color than the Martini and Rossi. Probably an indicator that it's going to be just a touch more rich. But of course, I tasted these before the show today, just so I can put them in a good order. Okay, so yeah, Cinzano just takes the same style, this very easy drinking style, and just cranks up just a notch on those more bark leather notes. Very long on the mouth as well. So I would say that Martini and Rossi is really simple and playful. Cinzano is also simple and playful, but just with a little more serious bark notes to it. All right, next category, or next brand I should say, is Cinzano 1757. Now's a really good time to talk about what this designation Vermouth di Torino means. And in essence, it's a geographic protection for vermouth made from Torino or Piedmont. And 50% of the grapes within this vermouth, and at least 3 of the botanical herbs, must come from the region of Piedmont. Of course, it has to be bottled somewhere between 16 and 22% alcohol. But one of the most great things I love about this designation is that it needs to have a really good balance between the herb, the acid, and the sweetness, because this style is intended to be really well balanced, and balance is a key part. Let me go ahead and give this a sip. Of course, Cinzano 1757 and Cinzano are made in the same factory, but one pays homage to the Vermouth di Torino style, and one pays homage to the style that the world has loved for many, many, many years now. Fresh, vibrant, a little more flavorful. Again, the same progression that came from here to here now came from here to here. Still cherry, still fruity, still berry-like, but a little more bark is sitting on my tongue right now. That's really delicious. So as you know, Italy is a country where the people are deeply connected with their region, their area, their city, their town, and their village. So come a gentleman by the name of Flavio Porcu, who was, of course, from Sardinia. He decided to make a vermouth with the ingredients from his land. So this vermouth here is made from a Vernaccia grape that has been aged for 10 years. And all the ingredients in here come from his region. The aroma here is a little more eucalyptic. I'm getting a little bit more herbal than I was getting on the previous versions. Yeah, this is a very beautiful vermouth. Of course, these are all different brands, right? The styles are different, but this one here, I feel like it takes the style of Cinzano 1757 and adds a little bit more of like piney, pine needle, fresh, almost rosemary flavors to it, giving it an extra component, an extra layer. Really, really, really nice. And now, as you can see over here, I've kind of moved the line from a swirl to a straight to another swirl. Over here, we're gonna get into vermouths that are going to start giving us just a kick more of an herbal note. So with that, I'm gonna try Dolin Rouge. Of course, this one here is made in France. A little lighter color here, which the color may or may not mean anything at this point. But let's see this style here. Very neat, very, very neat. A lot of freshness, briny, citrusy, even lemony. Those cherries pop in kind of towards the end of the palate, and just a little more, a little herbal, a little barky, I should say, but just a tad. Very, very nice. And again, if you would taste these in comparison, you might change the order just a little bit. I feel like this guy here could be somewhere over here, but still nothing crazy yet. Okay, next here on the spectrum is Drapo Vermouth. Drapo is made in Italy, more specifically in Turin. Let's go ahead and try this one. I get a little cloudier and a lighter color. Very distinctive. A tad sweeter at the beginning, but then drier towards the end. But actually I take that back. I'm getting a lot of candied orange on the top of my tongue. Very, very nice. So think about it. If you wanted your Manhattan to have a little candied orange note to it, this might be your thing. Speaking of, before I forget, vermouths, of course, make their way into many amazing cocktails. If you want to find some of those cocktails, why don't you go ahead and go to our website, masteryourglass.com, hit on the cocktails tab, and then go down to Sweet Vermouth, and it'll show you a list of the cocktails available, their pictures, and in some cases, even really short videos on how to make them. Now, let's move on to Boissiere. Boissiere is a brand that is intriguing to me in that I really cannot find a whole lot about it. I know its production went back and forth from France to Italy. I looked for a explanation on the bottle, and it just tells me that production went back and forth from France to Italy, but it does not tell me where this exact one is made. But that doesn't matter, because if it's good, it's good. Let's see. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, delicious. This right here is where I would draw the line between this style and this style, okay? Right here, I am starting to get more bark. I'm starting to get a little bit more woody notes. I'm starting to get a little bit more aging. So right here is a really good spot for you to see if you're gonna like more this one or this one, and we'll get to that in a second. Let's go ahead and try the next one, Maurin Vermouth. Maurin Rouge is made in France. Really nice, playful brand. I love its color, I love its flavor. Let me go ahead and taste. Wow. It's almost like I want to take Maurin and put it on a little planet of its own. It has that freshness, it has that herbal, but it's highly eucalyptic. I'm getting rosemary, just really, really fresh, right? I almost feel like I can put a couple of dashes of this inside of my mojito, and the mint from the mojito and the eucalyptic fresh notes of this vermouth would really, really do very well. Amazing, amazing vermouth. And now we're gonna move on to Trincheri, or Trincheri, how some people would say it. Now, Trincheri is made in California. However, the owner of the winery has roots back in Piedmont. So there is a little connection, both emotionally and probably historical, with the Piedmont region. And let me go ahead and give this, but see how dark this is? This is already going to be richer, bigger, bolder. Oh yeah, Oh yeah. Over here, there's some fig, some raisin, still that cherry in the background, but fig, raisin, dried fruits, and definitely some bitter notes. I feel like somebody poured a little bit of Amaro and a bitter Amaro inside of this bottle. This is lovely. This is amazing. Once again, if you're a drinker of this category, you may or may not like it, but if you like Amaro, especially the more bitter ones, if you enjoy Campari, if you enjoy bitter ingredients, bitter beers, then over here, we're starting to kick that in. Okay, so the next one I'm going to drink is Carpano, also known here in America as Carpano. Formula Antica. This one here is basically a vanilla flavored Carpano. It's not the original recipe that, of course, the creator of Sweet Vermouth made, but this vanilla flavored one is iconic. It was launched in the 1990s, and let me give it a shot. So this vermouth here is totally the alter ego of this guy over here. So this vermouth here was willing to play and, you know, commingle with everybody. This one here is showing up to be the star of the show. Okay, so very rich. Of course, we have vanilla notes because there's flavors of vanilla in it, but also that bark note is really cranked up quite a bit. Drier, but really big bark flavors. Next one I'm going to try is Montanaro, which is also a Vermouth di Torino. And grab this glass right here. 15% of this vermouth is made with Marsala wine. So this is going to be intriguing and interesting. Yes, another really rich, barky style. This one here is literally chewing on my tongue. So it's high in tannin, as well as having really high bark notes. The beginning of it was somewhat of the playful cherry style, but it only gives you that for a few seconds, and then it jumps right in to big, dry, barky, chewy, tannic. Literally right now, I feel like somebody has sandpaper on top of my tongue. Now, all of that might sound disgusting. Far from it. That is delicious. Let's move on to Spain. Here we're going to try Vermouth Gonzalez y Gonzalez, a Rojo Vermouth. This producer here, of course, is a sherry producer, so I'm expecting nothing but to taste some sherry notes inside of it. And let's see. Very delicious. Of course, Spain has a rich tradition of vermouth making and vermouth drinking, which is amazing and highly, highly respectable. This vermouth almost sits on an island of its own, as Maurin did from France. A little more sherry-like, a little more almost jammy, but also with a very big presence of those barks sitting on the top of my tongue and just kind of almost putting a little bit of pressure while the rest of my mouth has more of those jammy notes going on. Really, really, really exquisite. Almost nice enough that a consumer that likes both style, or just regardless of what style you like, you just might like a bit of this version of it, because you'll get 20 seconds of something you like, and then after that you'll get more of that bitter, barky note that I was talking about. Nonetheless, extremely delicious. Cocchi Vermouth di Torino. This is an iconic company, of course, with that it makes this Vermouth di Torino following their very, very old recipe. And there we go. Of course, as we see, we're towards the end, so we already know what's coming here. There really is this magic about Vermouth di Torino that I love, on how they really balance everything. This vermouth here has a really long finish. It kind of almost plays tug of war. There's a little fruit, bark, herbs, fruit, bark. So it gives you a little bit of it and then it takes it back. Quite an incredible flavor to my palate right now with all of that. And last but not least, Vermouth Alessio, also made in Italy. And we're gonna give this a shot. Now this is really, really dark. I mean, this here is the color of an Amaro. And this brand here, they also make a Chinato, which is a flavored, falls in that flavored style of vermouth. But Chinato has, of course, the cinchona bark, which means it's gonna be a little bit more bitter. A Chinato is a good way to bridge a gap between a vermouth and an Amaro. Having said that, this is a sweet vermouth. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Big. Kind of what I was getting here with the fruitiness kind of coming in and out, but in this case, the phases of the fruit versus the bark, there's a lot of bark, a little bit of fruit, a lot of bark, a little bit of fruit, but nonetheless, a lot of tingling going on. It's actually amazing how these producers do it. Because if you think about it, they're making a bottled cocktail. It's really incredible what a good skill it takes to manage to make all of that taste good. So, how do you pick the one you want? Well, once again, I would pick one from this side of the spectrum, and I would pick one from this side of the spectrum, and I would see which one you like more. Based off the one you like more, you're either on this style or on this style. If you want something that's going to be, a safe bet, then maybe come somewhere here towards the middle and you'll drink something that you're probably gonna like. There might be little parts where you're like, ooh, but remember, the good thing about these products is that they're supposed to grow on you. If you buy one and it's just a little too bitter, give it another chance. And if it's still too bitter, give it another one, and then you'll be running back to the store because you're gonna wanna buy another bottle. If this video was helpful, please do give us a like and a subscribe, and come on back for more of Master Your Glass with me, Livio Lauro, where you get expert instruction for everyday consumption.